behind me, you see just one. That's for the swan. This is the windmill on Windmill Island in Holland, Michigan, and what you're about to see is our tour of the mill here. That is cool. Did you get it?
For the swan, or graceful bird, and was brought to Holland from the southern part of the Netherlands in 1964. Currently it's about 250 years old, and it's still a working windmill, so we still keep it in good working condition. But in order to keep it that way, we've had to replace just a few parts, and these are along the back wall right over here. This piece right here is called a large spindle gear. It came down from the 6th floor where it aids in the grinding process. If you take a look at these individual spindles here, you see they've been worn down into a square shape. But in order to function properly, they need to be circular like this one here. So this piece no longer fit with the pieces around it and needed to be replaced. This curved piece of wood is 1/4 of the original brake band. The brake band is said to be the most important part of the windmill because it's the only thing that can stop or start our large blades from turning. Now if you look towards the bottom, you'll see there's a large crack forming, and there's an even larger crack forming underneath. So this piece was no longer reliable and needed to be replaced. This piece here is called a shutter, and this would go on the original blades of our windmill, as you can see in the picture above the drinking fountain. But we replaced our blades about 8 years ago, so a piece like this would no longer fit on our big blades. But how it would work is this part with the tulip on it would open or close, allowing more or less wind to pass through the blades, speeding them up or slowing them down. Now this last piece all the way over to the left, this is a part of the central shaft way up on the 5th floor. It's actually hanging upside down. An even larger spindle gear, similar to this one, would rest on top of those prongs and rotate, and this piece became very weak due to metal fatigue, so we had to replace that as well. Now we have 2 sets of large double doors, and these were for the convenience of the farmer. He could come in one set of double doors with his coursing cart, drop off his grain in the center, and then exit out the other set without having to turn around or back up in such a small area. You'll also notice that we are surrounded by brick. This is not Dutch brick, it is Michigan brick, but we have laid it in the traditional Dutch fashion. And if you take a look at the doorways, you'll be able to see this best. It slants downward on the outside, and this is for drainage purposes, to keep all the water and the moisture outside of the mill. And it slants upward on the inside for support, because we have about 70 tons of millwork above us. Now if you'll turn around and take a look up, you'll see a big square hole in our ceiling. This is our elevator shaft, and that white rope hanging down is the elevator itself. This is a grain elevator, so we can attach 2 50-pound bags of grain to the end of that rope, and a wind-driven gear way up on the 5th floor will be able to carry those bags of grain up to the floor so we can grind them.
Can you take a couple of these girls up on there?
No? Well, they've threatened to attach me to the bottom of it, but said no way.
Can you tell us why you have the metal on the side of your face?
Yes, normally I have another large starched hat that goes over the top of it, but I was having a really hard time dancing out, and because it's so windy, I would have to like hold it on. But they would help to keep the shape of my hat, and also it would tell you what my religion was and what region I was from, and whether I was single or married, whether I had wedding dowries from the sides of them.
And they're called blinders?
They're called kissers.
Kissers?
Yeah, and they always tell you in high school that they're to keep the boys away from the girls, because when a boy comes in to kiss you, you're supposed to turn your head and whap him in the eye.
I can't need 3 of those.
When a young girl first started to date, her father made sure she had the kissers on.
I'm sure he did.
Yep. I knew, but I wanted them to know. Okay.
Do you guys have any other questions? All right, we can head on up to the second.
Jill?
Jill. Yep.
Jill? Jill.
Oh. Well, that's easy to remember. All right, well, this is the packaging floor, and we call it the packaging floor because it's where we package our flour. But up above my head on the 3rd floor are large stainless steel bins, and that's where all of our flour is stored. So when we want to package, we just pull back on this black lever here, and you can see that wooden board at the top there. When we pull on that lever, it releases that board, so we can allow the flour to fall from the bins through this chute and into this bin right here. We then sift the flour, and what we're sifting out is the bran. That's a piece of the grain that didn't get ground down completely, so it's like a flat little piece of grain. And we feed it to our horses so nothing goes to waste. We package our flour into 2-pound and 3-pound bags, and we do actually sell this in our convenience store. This is the grain before it's ground, and this is the flour afterwards. You can go ahead and pass that around if you want to take a look at it. The wheat is Michigan winter white wheat. It's grown by farmers in Lowell, Michigan, and if you're not familiar with the area, that's about 40 minutes away from here, north. The flour is quite a bit darker than a usual baking flour. Usually that'll be pretty white, but our flour is a wheat flour. There's no added preservatives and it's not bleached. So it's very healthy and very natural, but if you do purchase it, you're going to want to throw it right in the refrigerator or the freezer because it only has a shelf life of about 2 weeks.
And how healthy is it?
I'd say it's whole wheat flour. So it's very healthy. Like I always tell my tour groups that you should make brownies and cookies with it because it gives it a nice thick consistency.
Wow.
And I always say you can tell them they're guilt-free brownies because they're made with the wheat flour.
Oh, I asked because I got high cholesterol.
Oh, I would think so. I don't know. I've never thought about it. I don't know if it says on
What
here.
was the
Normally we have a
question?
little- It is healthy, but I don't know if it would help cholesterol. I suppose it would.
That's what I have.
Yep.
If I have high cholesterol, I eat good.
No. You can bake some bread with it. That might help.
I eat too much bread.
All right. Well, if you take a look over here, this piece is called a large fanning mill. It wasn't used in the windmill, but it was used by the farmers to separate the wheat from the chaff. We would put the wheat into the top here, and we would turn this crank. The good wheat would fall into the basket down on the bottom, the good pieces of grain, and then the light chaff would come out the back end, and since this would be set next to an open door or window, it would just be carried away by the wind, so they didn't have to do any cleaning up.
That's good.
Now right next to me here are some decorations. These would be used to put on the blades of the windmill. Windmills were often used as communicators because they were so large they were easily seen throughout the town. So anytime there was a celebration like a wedding or a birth or even a funeral or a festival, they would decorate the blades so all the town knew what was going on. They also would communicate in the way the miller positioned the blades when he wasn't working. If the blades were set in a T, like this, it would tell the farmer that the miller was done working for the day. Maybe he was taking a day off. If the blades were set in an X like this, it would tell the farmer that the miller was on vacation, so he wasn't going to be working for a longer period of time. The farmer needed to know that because he didn't want to travel all that way with his horse and cart and come to find out that there was nobody here. So that would give him an idea of when he could bring his grain. Do you guys have any questions on this floor?